What if the jungle held secrets so strange that no one could explain them? Deep within its vast expanse, bizarre and terrifying discoveries have left experts scratching their heads. From unusual creatures to ancient, unexplained ruins, here are 20 scary jungle discoveries that can't be explained. Number 20. The Japanese soldier. When a country is at war, one of the things that's drilled into every soldier's head, no matter their rank or role, is that they have a job to do and that their country needs them to do it no matter what, and no matter how long it may take to complete that task and win the war. In World War II, multiple countries, including Japan, had tried to drill that into them, so much so that some felt that death was the only way outside of total victory. Enter a Japanese soldier who was in Guam's jungles for 30 years after the ending of the Second World War. That's because he felt that the war was still going on, and he had a job to do and he didn't know otherwise. He wasn't alone at first. He was actually part of a group that went into the forest after a key battle with the United States. And slowly, over time, his comrades died. And by the time that he was found 30 years later after the end of the war, he was so physically weak that he couldn't even fight back against those who had found him. He later wrote a memoir about his time in the jungle, and it's a fascinating and terrifying read about how far that one soldier would go in order to keep alive and to keep fighting for his nation. Number 19. The Island of the Dolls. This is one of those classic scary places on the internet and one that you would be wise not to go to if you were to believe in anything supernatural. The long and short of this place is that there was once a man who had left his family to go and be on this island. No sooner did he do that than he is said to have found a young girl's body in a nearby canal. It's scary, but it's not all that terror-inducing. That is, until he buried her body and then soon felt that she may have been haunting him. Near that moment, he found a doll in the canal, and he put it up on the island for her to play with. As time then went on, he kept on filling that island with dolls, all so that he could get the girl's spirit to leave him alone. His body would later be found drowned in that very same canal that he had found the girl's body in. Number 18. The Body in the Woods. Now we'll go all the way down to Alabama to reveal a story that happened earlier in 2024. The remains of a man had been found in the Talladega National Forest after a hunter stumbled upon his body. Once that body was discovered, officials came in to try and identify the man to see what the cause of death may have been. Thankfully, the body was successfully identified, and it was even noted that the person who passed had a truck that had been discovered nearby. At the time, it wasn't really known how that person had died, but that foul play did not seem to be a factor. So then that leaves the question about what actually happened to the man. It's hard to say, though. It's possible that he could have had a natural death, like something in the form of a heart attack, or he could have actually hurt himself in a way that led to him not being able to get help. Either way, it's not something that anyone wants to find as they're going through a forest. Number 17. The Freaky Campsite. A classic horror movie trope is that people are just going through the woods or a jungle, and they accidentally stumble across something that they weren't meant to see, and then they get all wrapped up in something that's truly sinister. A man from Huntington, New York, had one such encounter when he was going hiking in that area and came across a sight that defied all belief. First, he noticed that there were some missing person posters on various trees. And that would be weird but not all that freaky, except for the fact that there were actually a couple dozen of them, all which depicted real people that were actually missing at that time. And as he continued to wander around the area, he found himself looking at more unexplained things, like how there was a wooden cage on the site and how there was clearly signs of human life, yet nobody was there. You got to understand, if that is somebody's property, anyone would have been rightly freaked out by such a thing. And so he naturally went to the police to figure out what was going on. Surely enough, the police investigated the area but came to just as weird a conclusion. Apparently, all of it was just for a Halloween party. The police talked to the person at the nearby property, and they noted that it was just set dressing that they were doing later on and even had a party earlier in the year with the same decor. They promised to take it all down once they were done. Now, while that is an answer, it's still a pretty morbid one. I mean, why would anyone go to those kind of extremes for a Halloween party? Plus, use real people on real missing people posters instead of using fake ones with partygoers? Number 16. The Mysterious Mangrove Forest. Here's a twist on all of the things that I've talked about so far, because we're going to Mexico, where I'm not talking about something that's in the forest, but the forest itself that is just a little bit freaky. Found in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, a very curious mangrove forest exists that is entirely landlocked from the rest of the nation, and yet has been around for about 125,000 years without even being disturbed by man. And as I showed you with the Amazon, people just love disturbing forests. The key thing that scientists researched was how this mangrove forest came to be when the water levels weren't even high enough to sustain them. That's when they realized that they were born when the waters were high enough, and then they simply adapted to live without them. I have no idea what I even just read. Trees are incredibly endurance beings when left to their own devices. Now it's time for today's topic. A wildlife photographer flying a drone over the dense Congo Basin jungle in Central Africa has captured a chilling image that has left experts and locals stunned. The drone, initially sent to document wildlife, accidentally photographed what appears to be a massive, unknown creature lying on the forest floor. The creature, partially obscured by foliage, has a terrifying appearance. Its body is muscular and reptilian, with jagged scales and claw-like appendages. What's even more unsettling is the presence of what appear to be tribal hunters nearby, armed with spears and standing cautiously around the creature. The scene suggests the hunters may have killed or subdued the beast, but its sheer size and alien-like features have sparked global speculation. Experts are baffled by the image. This doesn't match any known species, one zoologist stated. It could be a relic of a prehistoric era or an undiscovered predator that has remained hidden in the jungle. The photo has ignited debates about what other secrets the Congo Basin might hold. For now, the mysterious creature remains unidentified, leaving the world to wonder if this is proof that ancient predators still roam the earth, hidden in the planet's most remote corners. Number 15. The cabin in the woods. Here's a cabin that was found in the Arcata Community Forest in California back in 2015. And the reason that it's odd is due to the man who had discovered it. Marc-Andre had been in the forest for 30 years prior for his job. And when he went back decades later to remark the trees for his position, that's when he found himself looking at a cabin that had definitely not been there before. As you can see, it was small but quite well built and clearly meant for someone to stay in for a short time before moving on. After contacting a ranger to get him inside, they found that the place was stocked up with supplies and even had an oven. Apparently, somebody had been using it as a kind of seasonal home for hunting and other actions. Whatever works for you, I guess. Number 14. The World War II bunker. Now let's talk about something a bit more uplifting. Over in Scotland, a bunker that had been hidden since World War II had been rediscovered, and its code name was Scallywag. Built during World War II, the bunker would have served as the base of operations for an auxiliary unit. These were special units that were placed around borders of the nation to be ready to defend the homeland should they be invaded by the Axis powers. But it does go deeper than that. These weren't only militias or basic citizens. These were a secret elite force that were truly meant to be the last line of defense should things end up going wrong. They would have acted much differently than other units and used that territory to their advantage, as they would know about it more than the enemy. They were even known as Churchill's secret army, which is both cool and also kind of terrifying in the end. Number 13. The Awa People. Now, if you think that the tribe I just talked about was alone in the dangers that the people of South America are placing on them, well, you would be wrong. In 2019, footage of a tribesman belonging to the Awa people was caught on camera and spread around Brazil and beyond to ensure that people knew about the people that were living in the Amazon. Outside of ranchers and miners, there are illegal logging rings that are secretly funded by the government and corporations that are driving tribes like the Awa out of their sacred homes. Other tribes have come in to try and help the Awa, including proving that they live in the areas that various commercial interests are trying to encroach upon. Again, if this kind of thing is not stopped, it will end up being a genocide. Number 12. The Boiling River. Nature can be scary at any point in time. It just needs to warm up to that point. And in the Amazon, it hasn't just warmed up in one river. It's straight up boiling hot. This is the Lab Bamba, aka the Boiling River, and its name is literal in every way that matters. The river you're seeing is apparently the only boiling river in the world, and I'm honestly not really sure how it's possible. You would think there may be a volcano nearby or that there were geothermal vents pumping heat into this section of the river, but that's not the case. So there are theories that the earth itself is providing the heat in some way that we just can't see. The locals use this river to boil their food and clean their clothing, proving once again that humans do know how to use the local environment to their advantage whenever possible. Number 11. The Last Tribesmen. Now, I previously told you of the dangers of chopping down the entirety of the Amazon jungle, but there's one element that I left out. There are native tribes that have been in the jungle for quite a long time and have thrived in their primitive ways. Most nations would fight to allow them to keep their ways and cultures. However, not in the Amazon. Instead, people are allowed to fight them, kill them, and even chase them off their land because they own no land, despite the fact that they've been there a lot longer than everyone else. That led to an entire tribe in Brazil being officially wiped out in 2022 when the last of that tribe died alone, and having seen the massacre of his people many years before by ranchers and miners. Now, make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, this was a case of genocide, and it's scary that it went unpunished. Number 10. The Amazon jungle. Finally, and most fittingly, we talk about the largest jungle and or rainforest of the world, that being the Amazon. I touched upon it earlier, but there are still so many things that are yet to be discovered in this place, which is why so many go into it and attempt to learn more. It's truly scary how little we do know about it. The Amazon is home to an estimated 10% of the world's known biodiversity, Yet scientists believe that number could be much higher as new species are discovered every year. From brightly colored frogs with potent toxins to towering trees that have stood for centuries, the Amazon is a treasure trove of life that continues to surprise researchers. Beyond its biological wonders, the rainforest also holds secrets of ancient civilizations, with satellite imagery revealing vast networks of roads, settlements, and even geoglyphs hidden beneath the dense canopy. These findings suggest that the Amazon was once home to thriving, complex societies that lived in harmony with the forest. However, deforestation and illegal activities threaten to destroy these archaeological sites before they can be fully studied. The Amazon also plays a critical role in regulating the Earth's climate, acting as a massive carbon sink that helps mitigate the effects of global warming. Losing it would not only mean the extinction of countless species but also catastrophic consequences for the planet as a whole. As our video has already proven, there are species of plants and animals that still need to be discovered, ancient civilizations that have left things in it to be uncovered, and there are native people that still need to be protected there. Hopefully, we do get a true appreciation for this jungle soon, so that every discovery that we make is not going to be made under the pressure of a time clock via the jungle slowly being erased. Number 9. The death-capped mushroom. Remember the story of the kids that got lost in the Amazon from before? Maybe you remember why they survived. That's because they knew what they could and couldn't eat in the jungle. And if you were suddenly dropped into the jungle, could you say the same about yourself? If you answered no, allow me to show you one of the most dangerous things in the world that you should definitely try to avoid, and that would be the death-cap mushroom. This is a specific kind of mushroom that doesn't have only one toxin inside of it. Can actually have several. It's so deadly, in fact, that it's been killing people for so long, it's actually been the cause of death for a Roman emperor. Thus, you'll want to avoid eating this mushroom. However, there's a twist in the tale. Recently, it was uncovered that the mushroom has a specific toxin in it that can potentially help to treat cancer. Not cure it, but to treat it and potentially ensure that remission doesn't happen with patients. It's an interesting thing to ponder whether something that gives death could also give life. And yet, that's also why we need to study these things vigorously, because you just never know what may be the thing that could actually save your life down the road. Number 8. The St. Creed Holy Well. Now, in general, wells are not all that scary unless the girl from The Ring is inside of it or you fall down it and Lassie isn't there to save you. But in this case, there is a place known as St. Creed Holy Well that people go to deep within a jungle to get various blessings. There actually used to be a church there, which would explain why that well was built in the first place. The well itself is surrounded by dense vegetation, giving it an almost otherworldly atmosphere, as if it's been frozen in time. Local legends claim that the water from the well has healing properties, and many visitors leave offerings like coins, ribbons, or flowers in hopes of receiving a blessing. Some say that the well is guarded by a spirit, a benevolent presence that watches over those who come with pure intentions. Others, however, have reported feeling an eerie sensation, as if they were being watched by unseen eyes while approaching the site. The singing woman encountered by the British couple only adds to the mystery, as her sudden appearance and calm demeanor seemed almost supernatural. She claimed that the well had granted her family member a miraculous recovery, which is why she returned to sing in gratitude. The couple later described the experience as both unsettling and oddly peaceful, as if they had stepped into a realm where the line between the natural and the spiritual was blurred. Whether the woman was a local healer or something more ethereal remains a mystery, but her presence has become part of the well's growing lore. What might be the scariest thing of all, though, is that when one British couple went to the well, they were met by a singing woman who introduced herself as a healer and had asked the well to help her family member. Well, okay then. Number 7. The threatened snake species. One of the key things about the Amazon jungle that cannot be ignored is that we haven't even come close to discovering all of the species inside of it. The place is so dense that mounting an expedition of any kind that is meant to last a while is almost a death sentence. Yet we keep on trying because we find new species like these rather beautiful snakes that have to be studied even more. Some of these newly discovered snakes have unique adaptations, such as vibrant patterns that help them blend into the forest floor or scales that shimmer like rainbows under the light. These discoveries not only expand our understanding of biodiversity, but also highlight the intricate balance of life within the Amazon. Unfortunately, many of these species are already at risk of extinction before we even have the chance to study them properly. Illegal mining and logging operations often destroy critical habitats, leaving these creatures with nowhere to go. The loss of these habitats also disrupts the delicate ecosystems that countless other species depend on for survival. Scientists warn that the Amazon is approaching a tipping point where deforestation could lead to irreversible damage, turning the rainforest into a savanna-like environment. However, that's where another scary element of things comes into play. The snakes themselves aren't too much of a threat, but the fact that their homes are in danger because of mining absolutely is. Mining happens in pretty much every area of the Amazon, and it's slowly whittling the forest down to nothing. It's so bad that corruption helps to ensure that deforestation continues. And if it keeps being allowed to do that, we're not going to discover any new species of animals or plants in the Amazon because the Amazon's going to be gone. Number 6. The Missing Boy. The story of the children in the Amazon jungle surviving for 40 days was truly wondrous and touching, but it's hardly the only tale of kids getting lost in the jungle and then being found once again. In 2021, a young boy was lost in the Australian bush and had been missing for about 4 days before being spotted by officers on his family property. The boy was drenched and had multiple cuts and bruises and had even been bitten by ants, but overall seemed to be in okay condition. The search for the boy had involved hundreds of volunteers, police officers, and even helicopters, scouring the dense and unforgiving terrain of the Australian wilderness. The bushland, with its thick vegetation and unpredictable weather, made the search incredibly challenging, and many feared the worst as the days dragged on. Remarkably, the boy was found near a creek, where it appeared he had been drinking water to stay hydrated, a key factor in his survival. His ability to endure the harsh conditions, despite his young age and vulnerability, left many in awe. Family members described the moment he was found as overwhelming, with tears of relief and joy flowing freely. Experts later noted that the boy's autism may have played a role in his ability to remain calm and focused, even in such a disorienting and dangerous situation. The incident also sparked discussions about the importance of teaching children basic survival skills, even at a young age, to prepare them for unexpected situations. The true mystery is what had led that boy to vanish the way that he did and why it took 4 days for him to be found. The young boy had autism, which could have led to his random departure, but either way he was found to be all right, and that's what matters in the end. Number 5. The Siblings. Now, before you go freaking out, this wasn't a bunch of bodies that were found. However, it easily could have been that way had the circumstances not gone down as they did. In Colombia last year, a mother took her 4 children out on a plane ride. They went over the Amazon jungle when the plane crashed after an engine failure, and that killed both the mother and the 2 pilots that were on board. And that also meant that all the children, the oldest of which was 13, were left to be on their own. Now, if you somehow don't know, the Amazon is arguably one of the most dangerous places in the world to try and survive in. Between the animals, the plants, the native tribes, and the weather that can turn on a dime, the Amazon can kill you without a second thought. And it has done so in the past to people. So when you hear that these 4 kids, 3 of which were not even 10 years old yet, were able to fend for themselves and survive in the Amazon for about 40 days before being rescued, that's rather kind of insane to think about. The thing that tipped the balance of luck in their favor was, in fact, the oldest child. She has apparently been the one taking care of the kids when the mother was away for work, so she knew exactly how to feed them and guide them and keep them alive. When the plane went down, military and government officials then sprung into action to try and find the children. And it was a true day of celebration for the country when they were discovered. They were then taken in for medical attention and eventually given to their grandmother, who was very grateful that all 4 of them had survived. What I wouldn't give to hear from those kids and get their account of how they had survived due to being natives of the area. They knew exactly what to eat and not to eat, and they knew how to make a shelter and protect themselves from the elements. It is a true miracle and something that could have been much more sad and scary had the story not turned out like this. Number 4. The Humpback Whale. Whales are actually one of the few creatures in the world that it's fine not to be scared of. Outside of orcas, of course, but that's more of a personality issue than it is a species issue. So if I told you that there was a humpback whale that was found in the Amazon, that may not surprise you given that whales live in the oceans and bodies of water near them. Except that I'm not talking about the waters around the Amazon. I'm talking about the ones that are upon land in the Amazon. Specifically, this whale was discovered on an island which is right by the Amazon River. The discovery baffled scientists and locals alike, as humpback whales are typically found in the open ocean, not anywhere near dense rainforests. The whale, estimated to be about a year old, was likely separated from its pod and became disoriented, eventually straying into the river system. Strong tidal surges and seasonal flooding in the Amazon region are known to create unusual water pathways, which may have carried the whale far from its natural habitat. The carcass, measuring about 26 feet long, was found surrounded by dense vegetation, making it even more surreal to see such a massive marine creature in the middle of the jungle. Researchers noted that the whale's body showed no signs of predation or human interference, suggesting it had died of natural causes before being swept inland. The event highlighted the sheer power of nature and the interconnectedness of ecosystems, even in ways that seem impossible at first glance. And then, as they looked closer at the whale, they noticed its young age and how it was likely dead before it even made it to land. And they realized the truth. That truth being that the whale was washed ashore by the currents and tides and was literally dropped off by the high water levels before they were able to recede once again. And so it simply came down to the force of the water shoving the whale all the way up there. Number 3. Snake Island. You may think that a place called Snake Island is just the setting for some kind of horror movie or television show, but it is a very real place and it is very, very dangerous. Specifically, this island is one that can be found off the coast of Brazil, and it's actually illegal to step foot there unless you're a member of the military or you're an approved scientist that has been given explicit permission to be there. Why anyone would want to go there outside of those parameters would be a true mystery to me. After all, this place is not only loaded up with snakes, but some of the most deadly and rare snakes in the world can be found there. Some of the snakes are even endemic to the island, which makes it a place to both protect and quarantine from those who may get some kind of bad ideas. While the exact population numbers of all the snakes on the island is actually unknown, we do know that some of the individual species numbers are in the thousands. So when you have multiples in that number by the many species of snakes on the island, you get a place that you really should never go to. But I'll answer your question. How does such a place exist in the first place? Well, simply put, during the Ice Age, there was a land bridge between the island and Greater Brazil. However, when the water levels rose, the bridge got cut off. The snakes then had to rapidly adapt to the island that they were stuck on, and that accidentally led to their population numbers spiking. Just to remind you, it's illegal to go there without government permission. And given that many of these snakes are venomous, well, I'm doing you a favor by continually warning you not to step foot on that island. Oh, and if not obvious, this island would be the one place that even Indiana Jones wouldn't dare to venture to. Number 2. The Amazon Rock Art. While not scary in the traditional sense, it's always shocking when we find things from the ancient past that help to redefine what we know about certain people and cultures. For example, anything that we can learn about the ancient Neanderthals and others that lived in the Ice Age period and beyond is something that we should value and treasure. One such piece that did just that came once again from the Amazon jungle via a rock wall. Specifically, some ancient Ice Age era paintings were found on that rock wall, giving us insight to what people were like about 12,000 or more years ago. How many paintings were on this rock face? Well, how about tens of thousands? That's right. There were so many paintings on this wall that the people who found it had dubbed it the Sistine Chapel of the Ancients. What Michelangelo would have thought about that is perhaps unknown. Their date is based partly on depictions of now extinct Ice Age animals like the mastodon, which was a classic creature from the era. Other animals that were found there that we know to be native to South America from that period of time include special giant sloths and even ice horses. Oh, but that's not all that was drawn. There were also numerous handprints of the people who helped to make the paintings. One of the reasons that the art was not found until 2019 was because it was in a seriously remote place in the Amazon. Regardless of any of those facts, it does make you wonder what it was like living in the Amazon all the way back then and what led to the people making all of these various paintings and images. Were they simply trying to recreate what their lives were like at that point in time? Did they simply want to draw some stuff? It really is hard to know, and that's why these findings are so important. Number 1. The Lost City. From a distance, jungles may seem to be a place that's only inhabited by animals and plants. However, over the many years of human history, various cultures have constructed cities of all shapes and sizes in these places, only to have the jungle consume them once those civilizations move on or even die out. Earlier in 2024, one such lost city was discovered in the Amazon jungle. This particular finding is important for a key reason. It's apparently been hidden for tens of thousands of years. That paints a brand new picture of who may have lived in the Amazon long ago and what they were actually capable of. The houses and plazas are in an area in eastern Ecuador that are connected by an astounding network of roads and canals. We typically try to think of those kind of things as modern advances, but it just goes to show that people knew how to make things easier for themselves even that long ago. Another thing that's important with the city was its location. It apparently stood in the vicinity of a volcano, which may have been why they stayed there initially, as volcanic soil is some of the most fertile on Earth. On the flip side, though, the volcano might have erupted, which then buried the city. One last thing to point out is that most would agree this is the oldest piece of civilization found in the Amazon so far. That's a scary thing to think about because it means that we likely know even less than we even know about the area to begin with. Well, that's all from the jungle and the many weird, creepy, and shocking things that have been discovered there over the years. Which of these findings did you find the scariest? Are there any that you think need more attention? Perhaps there's another jungle discovery that should have been included in this video. Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. Also, check out the other cool things appearing on the screen. I'll see you next time.